Hello, my friends. Man, I just got that little idea from what was it? Animaniacs. Hello, nurse. Don't know if any of you guys and gals out there have heard that, but that was what popped into my head. And I get really excited, as most of you know, when I get to talk to friends, longtime friends, and real industry experts on this show. So before I introduce you to who I have, let me just quickly go over what the Gunn Show is, presented by MTDCNC. The Gunn Show is not necessarily about guns or weapons, although sometimes it turns out to be that way. And it's not about muscles because I don't have any of those, although a lot of my guests do. It is about humanizing this industry in every way possible, to talk to the people who are the biggest creators of everything around us, from cars and phones and computers and rockets, and I mean, the list goes on, right? And we know about these things, but we don't know the personalities or the misfits or the crazy people that are behind all of this creativity. And that's what the Gunn Show is about. It's about humanizing this industry and helping you get to know the people around you better. So thank you all for tuning in. You're amazing. You're awesome. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Today, I have a longtime friend with me, my buddy, Justin Small. I met him probably a decade ago, maybe a little less than a decade ago. He was one of the most brilliant engineers I knew. I've worked with him on a lot of projects. He has since recently jumped over to owning his own business called Cox Stunt Parts. And some of you might be asking, that's a fun name, Cox Stunt Parts. What do they do? Well, as Stunt Parts actually shows you or talks about, it is quality parts at a price you can afford, designed by riders for riders. There is so much more to the awesomeness of Cox Stunt Parts and what they create, and for the industry they create it for. But I'm going to let Justin explain all that to you. So first, put your hands together. Can I hear it? Can I hear that applause? There it is. I can hear you guys applauding for my buddy, Justin Small. Justin, how are you, brother? This is the Gunn Show. Thank you so much for being a part of the show, my friend.
Awesome. Well, man, I'm just happy to be here. Thanks for having me on again, and just super happy to see where the podcast takes us.
Absolutely. Well, we like to take it from as early as you would like to discuss, from your personality, and I kind of know you pretty well. So I would like to bring this all around full circle about what I know that your business does, and knowing who you were before I met you, some of the accidents that you were actually in while I knew you, and the family you've created and the company you've created ever since. So if you don't mind, Justin, let's go back to the days of when you were a young man excited about engineering and motorcycles.
Well, that was, when we first met, it was 2012 or 2013, somewhere in there. And, I've always been just kind of infatuated with motorcycles growing up. And it was one of those things where I was never allowed to have one until I kind of got out of the house and on my own. And as soon as I could afford to buy one, it was like one of the first big purchases I decided to make coming out of college. And from there, as a machinist, if you're trying to look at all these parts online and you're seeing all these things and you just think to yourself, man, I could just make half of this stuff. And that's kind of where a lot of this all began from, was in my earlier years, working at Herco, having an apps position there. It was such a great environment to learn and really kind of develop the craft. And then you always had brand new machines to play with. So, I got to learn a lot there, make a lot of parts for my bike personally. And they're really cool about that. If I want to make something after hours, I could use the machines for whatever I want, just, pay for my own materials and stuff. And it was really a great opportunity. But, even before that, I was in Vincennes University and went through their program. And they had a bunch of machines, and it was a great opportunity to learn Mastercam there, and they had some Haas machines, which were awesome to learn on, and that's kind of where it all started for me, really. We could go back even further to high school and stuff. That was a great time as well. I mean, first starting to get your feet wet, but really a lot of the engineering and getting into the design stuff of what I'm doing today, that really kind of stems from late college and working at Herco and kind of having the opportunity to play a lot with just making parts on the side. And it was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that's all very true. And that was about the time that you were a famous superstar in a magazine. But before we get there, before you were the cover child of Herco, as I was in, I believe, Emo or A and B in Germany, and I look over the magazine and I see your face on the cover of the Herco magazine, and I shoot you a text message going, dude, you're famous. But before we got there, let's talk about your journey through Vincennes. What was that like?
Um, it was really cool. By the way, I was also on some billboards too in Indianapolis. That was so driving south
Wow.
out of Indy. Yeah, they had they leased a billboard for a year. That same ad went up on that billboard, so that was kind of funny. So yeah, I never thought I'd be on the cover of a catalog or a billboard. So that was pretty cool. They kind of just took the apps department and had everybody kind of do some shots and everything, and mine were, I guess I was the best looking at the time. I don't really know. But yeah, but before that, Vincennes was really cool. Good experience. Got to learn how to run manual machines, manual lathes, mills, IDOD grinders. We built some injection mold presses. We had some prototrack CNCs to kind of learn the intro to CNC there. And then they had it was a H-Tech, a Haas Technical Education Center. And they had like a VF2 with a trunnion and several machines with 4th axis on them, and a lot of 3-axis verticals and a few lathes, a live tool SL 20, I believe it was back then. So there's a lot of projects that went through there as well. And that was a really good time. The third year of Vincennes, we always compete in a Mastercam contest. I don't know if they still do it today, but it's called Innovator of the Future. And Vincennes kind of won that every year, it seemed like. And the year I went through the program, I competed and won that contest. That was really cool. So in the early days of my career, first starting out, I got to take a flight out to North Carolina to see the wind shear testing facility where they check the aerodynamics of the vehicles, and got to go to Stuart Haas Racing. And that was just kind of an awesome way to end your, educational career. Or it's kind of a weird way to say that, but it was kind of a nice end to college, I guess you could say. But yeah, Vincennes was a great program. Really got to learn a lot about how to draw, solid modeling, how to program in Mastercam, and all that kind of stuff. It was really a good place to get a core foundation. I think a lot of people, there's so many people I see out in industry that's self-taught, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's looking back in my past to go through that program and have such a good foundation to build on. That really helped me learn a lot more faster, even after college. So Vincennes was a great program when I went through it. I was super thankful to have that opportunity.
Yeah, fantastic testimonial. And I've talked with some folks on here, like Peter Bowman, whose dad worked at Vincennes for the longest time. And a lot of the employees at Flying S, came out of Vincennes, and they were very much a Haas house for a long time before moving into some of the Matt Suras and CR Onsrud that they have. But truly a great company. And hearing your testimonial about Vincennes just adds to the quality and character of the people that come out of there. That's awesome. How do you feel that prepared you moving into Herco? Because to be fair, man, when I first met you at Herco, you were, in my opinion, impressive. You knew what you were doing. There's a reason why you were on those billboards. It wasn't just your good looks. There was a reason why you were on the cover of those magazines. It wasn't just your good looks. You supported every project that I ever sent your way. You were really great at it. You started flying all over the country and parts of the world, supporting your customers as well, which I know they found value in you also. How do you feel like Vincennes prepared you? And then how do you think Herco prepared you for owning your own business that you have now?
Well, if you think about Vincennes and what I got out of school, when I left, I knew how to do, I hate to say like anything you could imagine or everything about a Bridgeport, because in this trade, you can't know everything. And that's something that, I always try to tell myself and tell my business partner, when we're looking at projects, and I try to keep that humility, because the moment you think it all, like think you know it all, you will quickly be humbled and feel like an idiot. So you kind of have to, when I think about Vincennes, it was such a great opportunity to learn how to do everything I could imagine on a Bridgeport plus more, how to do everything on a lathe, how everything goes together, how everything works together. You learn how machines work and how they work together to make, components in the end. So it really, nails down, this process needs to be done on a mill. This process needs to be done on a lathe. Well, you have a bearing tolerance. So maybe you want to grind, that part. That way it's more accurate. It has a better fit, things like that. And building some injection molds there, we weren't really just making parts and making like a bench vise or like little toys for your garage. We made things that went into a mold press, and one of the final projects was coffee cups. And it's kind of a simple thing when you look at a cup, but when you start putting the mold together and start fitting everything and dealing with all the issues that come up, it's more than just making a piece. It's making everything work together. And that's really what Vincennes taught me a lot of. Was it's not so much just the one part, it's how do all the pieces fit together, and not just with like the parts in general, but how do you develop a process? How do you look at holding things? How do you look at what machine you even want to begin to do this project on? So, a lot of those fundamentals were pretty strong because the program kind of instilled those in you, to where what a milled part looks like. What part needs to go on a lathe. What part, maybe not when you leave school, as far as like what you'd put on like a Mazak Integrex or a Herco 5-axis, or you don't really know those things, but you have enough foundation that a lot of it translates over. So Vincennes is a really good place to just get that foundation. And then when I hit Herco, I also worked at a shop on the south side of Indy for a year and almost 2 years, called Garrity Tool. And it was really nice to kind of have that first experience. And everybody's going to say that. It's kind of funny to hear yourself talk sometimes. You're like, yeah, it was nice. Okay, yeah, everybody's going to talk like that. But whenever you're going into a shop for the first time and you're having these challenges that you didn't face or weren't taught in college, you hit a point where you're looking at different problems and how do you tackle them, and you talk to the old guys on, well, how would you do this or how would you do that, and they kind of tell you what they think. And the biggest thing I guess was at Garrity was we had our Swiss term programmer leave. He had a better opportunity come, and no fault to anybody's. He was a young guy wanting to get out and do something different, and that's cool. And he made a good career for himself out of it. But everybody else is afraid of these Swiss turns. There was a Tsugami SS20 and a Tsugami SS20 32, a 32 millimeter Swiss and a 20 millimeter Swiss. And I remember everybody was like, yeah, I'm not touching those. There's no way I want to learn those, or I don't want to deal with those problems. I remember I went to the vice president of the company and I said, hey, I think I could probably figure out how those things work. And he was like, really? I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can do it if you just give me a little time on them. He goes, well, they're just going to sit there if I don't. So have a way at it. Here's the manuals. And the guy that was leaving gave me a little bit of advice on how to kind of do a few things. And within about 2 or 3 weeks, he came over and he's like, how's things going? I was like, pretty good. I had a part program, got it off the machine, got their first article, and had a part running on the Swiss. And he didn't know that. And he came over thinking like I hadn't been doing anything the last 2 weeks. And he comes up and he's like, oh, it's running. I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, I'm trying to get the other one going now, So it was kind of cool to have that experience of throwing that first big challenge and overcoming it, And then you get into like the Herco days. And that was a whirlwind. I mean, you leave the shop and you're in a job now where people don't care about you making parts. They care about you solving the problems for other people that they don't want to solve or can't solve. So when you hit being an apps engineer and you're talking about working on projects together, I really kind of prided myself on, I didn't want to fail on a project. I wanted everything to work. And and you don't win them all, and you can't win them all. It's just the way life goes. But I wanted to win as many as I could as far as getting successful projects out there. And when I first went to Herco, it's kind of a weird position. If anybody ever goes into apps engineering at like a machine tool builder, the first month or two, I remember I felt so out of place because you spend the last 2 years of your life being hounded, make these parts, make 500 of these, make 1,000 of those. I was doing runs on Swisses, and then I go to where it's like, yeah, just answer the phone when someone calls, and if they have a problem, just kind of look into it and try and figure it out. And it's like, well, what do I do in the meantime? Well, just kind of work on some paperwork, or maybe look into some training material. And it was like a whole different, and eventually in apps, like things pick up a bunch to where like you're super busy and you're dealing with customer issues and trying to help people make parts, and it gets really busy. But I remember the first couple months there, I was just thinking, man, this feels kind of just weird. I never, it was kind of the first desk job I ever had. So it was kind of odd, but it was nice because we had a bunch of machines in Indianapolis, and there's always brand new equipment. If a customer had a problem, you just walk out and you start playing with a machine, and it's like every day it's something different. It's always a new challenge, always a new problem, and you're always solving things for other people. And working at a company like that, like at Herco, I think it's easy to play off. Like you say, I'm a brilliant engineer or whatever. I don't really feel like I'm that smart, in all honesty. I just feel like I had a really good opportunity to work with a lot of people that are way smarter than me. And I got to piggyback on their success a bit and really learn a lot of stuff. And I try to absorb as much as I could. My old boss, Jerry Trikoff at Herco, he was phenomenal to work with. He kind of gave you enough flexibility and freedom to venture down the rabbit hole, if you will, and whether it be macro programming or whatever, he could kind of put a couple hints out here as far as maybe you should try this, or maybe you should try that, and he would kind of guide you down the path to learn it. So working at Herco is really where I started to learn a lot, and mainly it was because you get to work in the industry where they're making the machines, and you're dealing with the more complicated problems, and you're working with groups of people where you have resources to be able to solve really difficult problems. Where if you're in a machine shop, and if you're trying to write a macro program and your boss doesn't know macro programming and nobody else in the shop knows how to write a macro, well, you don't really have a whole lot of resources to draw from. But when you work as like an apps engineer for a machine tool builder, you get to learn from the guy that's writing the software, from the guy that's doing the graphics, from the guy that's supporting macros, from the guy who's doing the conversational stuff on it. There's just so many people to learn from, and that I honestly really feel like that's where I learned the most in my career was Herco, and it was 100% because of the group of people you get to surround yourself by. I mean, it's just an amazing experience, and when you're in that position, you get to go to shop after shop after shop, and you can tell the good shops from the bad shops. And it's kind of funny now that I'm in those shoes where it's running a shop, and looking back, I can relate so well with so many of those business owners because I get the frustrations and the struggles so much more now. But it was also really, really eye-opening to see all these different shops, and you could find, well, all of these successful shops do this, or like all your real big nice successful shops, a lot of them will have like offline tool presetters and heat shrinks or real nice tooling systems. The shops that struggle are the ones that are still putting things in ER collets, and not that there's anything wrong with it. I mean, I'll put drills and taps in ER collets all the time. If I'm going to run a 1/2 inch end mill, I'm going to put it in a heat shrink because there's no run out. There's less worries. It works so much better. It's just kind of how it is. You find those things that you see in the shops that really worked at the real profitable good shops, and it was to have that exposure really taught me a lot of, one, even though I didn't know it at the time, this is what successful shops are doing, and this is what I need to do with my shop. And two, always working on the most complicated problems. When someone brings something into my shop, we have a laser scanner here. I've got a seat of quick surface that we do all the reverse engineering with. So a lot of times someone will bring a part in and say, I need this thing remade, but I don't have a print, I don't have a model, I don't even know where to begin. And we can kind of be a one-stop solution for that and throw it on my desk. I can scan it, create a solid model. They can approve the model. I can create a print, go over anything that's critical, and then we can go out and machine the part. And, you know, the real successful shops always kind of seem to have those toys like a laser and heat shrinks and tool setters and those kinds of things. But yeah, that's kind of like in a nutshell of how Vincennes kind of prepared me and how Herco prepared me. If I had to break it down, the clearest way is just Vincennes was the foundation and Herco was the overwhelming wealth of knowledge being poured at me every day. You know, is kind of, that's the best way to describe it.
The future of American manufacturing isn't a talking point or a pipe dream. It is here and now. Companies like Methods Machine Tools are hiring all across the country for positions ranging from entry level to service technicians and senior engineers. Methods Machine Tools is a CNC tool importer that prides itself on providing world-class service and support to manufacturers across North America. Methods has built a culture over 60 years as one of the best companies in the industry to work for, based around work-life balance, shared knowledge, and education. Learn more about Methods by visiting www.methodsmachine.com. Obviously, I want to ask you in the very near future about the courage it took to, based on all this valuable wisdom and experience that you gained over the years, the courage it took to launch your own business, which I know that you were running for a little while with a great friend of yours, and then you ended up jumping in with both feet after a little kind of a startup kind of a thing. And I want to get into that in just a minute, but before we get to that, and before we get to those amazing parts that you make for the stunts, the stunt motorcycles, would you mind sharing a little bit about that accident that you went through as well? Because to me, that's a very humanizing aspect, that the love for what you do right now and what you create right now still goes back to a time where I remember you being on crutches. And I remember, you know, the start of your family and then the importance of your family and everything that goes along with it. Would you mind sharing a piece of that journey?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's kind of, there's also a funny side story to that with my injury. I actually, so I'm a motorcycle guy, right? And I had a 2001 RM 250 two-stroke at the time. And we were out the Badlands in Attica, Indiana, and it's where I grew up. And this is probably why my parents didn't allow me to have a motorcycle growing up. And I kind of get it, but at the same time, it just ended up hurting myself in my 20s instead of my teens. So I don't really see the difference. I probably would have healed quicker in my teens. But I was out riding in some sand and there was a big hill. And if you hit it and, you know, top of first gear, you know, bottom of second, you get some, you know, pretty decent air off of it and kind of come down the backside. There's a big hill we'd climb up after that and shoot down the other side. We're kind of doing lap after lap on it. And I asked my buddy, you know, how fast you just hit it? And I just didn't even think. He was on a 4-stroke 250 and I'm on a 2-stroke 250. He's like, man, just pin it top of second. It'd be awesome. I'm like, all right. And it was rowdy. It was bad. I took a hard bounce at the bottom of this hill and it just immediately sent my back tire up in the air. And all I remember is just wide open throttle, hitting the bottom, thinking, oh, too fast. Like that went straight through my head, way too fast. And the back of the bike started coming over the top of me. And all I remember really is hitting the ground and then just like this overwhelming pain of like, and then I caught my breath and my buddy, Sam, looked at me. He was like, you all right? I was like, no. And he was like, can you get up? No. I was like, call 911. This is bad. He's like, are you sure that's going to be expensive? Oh yeah, I'm sure. This is real bad. And you know, I wasn't really, because so much adrenaline, I wasn't crying yet. And I'm not trying to play tough because I definitely cried a bunch. It was terrible. That was the worst pain I've ever had. But I was just so like just kind of just freaked out and worried about it because, you know, you're laying on the ground and you can't move and you can feel things are broken. And they threw me in the back of an F-150 pickup because we're out in the middle of the sand dunes, loaded me up in the back of that. And then we drive up to where a helicopter can land. And then they called in an airlift to get me out of the Badlands. And then they flew me up to Indianapolis, and I spent 6 days in the hospital. The funniest part of this story is I had gotten a job offer the week before that. And I had went to Herco with the old, hey, I got an offer from another company. I don't really know what to do. And, Herco and I kind of went back and forth that entire week. And that Friday, they're big. And this is why they're a fantastic company. Okay. I mean, I'm really happy I worked there for 8 years, and I can't say enough good about them. But I literally, that Friday, their biggest concern was, we're happy to keep you here, but we're worried that you're not happy here. And if you're not happy here, we don't want you here, but we'll do something for you. We'll make you feel appreciated. And we want to make sure that going forward, you're not, you do feel appreciated, you feel fulfilled here, and everything went great that Friday. We came to terms. And I remember my boss at the time, Jerry, said, I'm going to, I can put this all behind us, and we can just go forward and go from there like it never happened. And he's like, no hard feelings about anything, and we'll just carry on with business forward. And I was like, yeah, no problem, man. I can do that. No worries. And then the next day, I'm getting airlifted to a hospital thinking, oh my God, they're gonna fire me. It's like, this is not good. This is terrible timing. I was calling Dan, like, hey, can you go get my laptop so I can like log in and then put in for vacation on Monday? And Dan was like, you're freaking out. Just calm down. It's okay. Like, just tell Jerry what happened. It's not gonna be a big deal. I was like, oh, dude, I don't think you understand. Like, I'm pretty nervous right now. But yeah, they actually paid me full wages all but 2 weeks of my recovery, and I was salary. And the biggest thing they were worried about is me coming back and being healthy and everything. So they that at that time in my life, it was really cool to go work for a company and kind of go behind their back in a way, because if you go and talk to another company, it's not really going behind their back. You're always doing what's in your best interest. But to kind of have that conversation about, I'm not sure about my future here. I got this other job offer. And then that week, you're getting airlifted to the hospital, and they pretend like nothing happened. It's fine. Don't even worry about it. We just want a speedy recovery. And that was like, nothing was ever even said about it. So yeah, but it was I spent 6 days in the hospital. And I was kind of always in the back of my mind, am I going to have a job when I go back? Because I know some other bosses in the past that probably would fire somebody over something like that. Even though I'm not sure you legally could, I'm sure they'd try and find some way to do it. So it was kind of interesting. But yeah, I broke my femur, broke my clavicle, had to get I think it was called an intramedullary nail, and 4 screws in my leg. I had to get my whole shoulder cut open, 9 screws and a plate in my clavicle. I had a Hemi walker and a wheelchair, and it was the most excruciating pain in my life. It was just insane. Like, if you've known anybody, or if you've ever broken your femur, I always tell my wife, it's worse than childbirth. I don't care what you say. And she's like, no, it's not. I'm like, yeah, well, childbirth doesn't last for months. Okay. It's terrible.
It sounds awful. And I remember seeing you during that time, and just kind of, I've never been in quite so bad an injury, so empathizing to the best of my ability. But it looked, my heart went out to you during that time for sure. But that didn't slow you down, did it? You just decided, I'm going to go straight into the business of making more crazy stunt parts for motorcycles, which is what you're doing now, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. I ended up, how it all started was I made a couple things for my bike, and I met Matthew online, and his last name is Glasscock, so that's where the name came from. And we always joke that we never had a plan, and I'm not sure we still don't have a plan. We kind of just go day by day and just kind of go with the flow and see what's working and what's not, and just kind of go with it. But I met him on the internet, and it's some guy that I didn't I didn't know, just kind of started hitting him up. He made crash cages, and I made some billet parts for my 636 Kawasaki, like triple tree and adjustable bars. And I didn't want to make just one set, so I made like 10 sets and 10 triple trees at Herco. I was like, yeah, if I'm going to set up a machine to do this, it's like $20 a billet. I might as well just spend a couple $100 and make 10 of them. And I was kind of, probably shouldn't have, but I was trying to make a little extra side money. Not a big deal, I don't think, but I was going to sell one or two, and I gave away a couple of sets to friends and stuff, and it was just to turn into like $20 here, beer money or whatever you want to call it. And I had a box of these parts sitting for like 2 or 3 months. I didn't really know what to do with them, and I wasn't really much on selling stuff online. It just never really had time to deal with it. And I met Matthew, and he was going to work out a trade with me. Like, hey, I'll trade you, some clip-ons for a crash cage and a triple tree. And yeah, that's cool. So I met with Matthew, and I went down to Louisville one weekend. We rode. There's a lot over in Louisville that we used to ride a decent amount. And Matthew, by the way, is a phenomenal rider. He's awesome to watch. He can sit high chair and do circles and all this crazy stuff. It's just, honestly, when I watch him ride, it kind of frustrates me, because it's like, why do you make it look so easy? Like, it's not easy. How are you doing this? It's crazy. But he's like that with everything. Anything with a motor, he's just gifted. But we rode, and I had this box full of parts, and I just kind of threw it in his trailer. I was like, hey, if you can sell these, let me know. And then a couple weeks later, he texts me. He's like, have you not checked your PayPal? I was like, no. I opened my PayPal, and I don't want to say how much was in there, but it was enough that he asked if I could get more parts. And I said, oh yeah, we need to figure this out. And I ended up doing some research, and we bought a 1989 Robo Drill before Robo Drill owned it. It was a Pratt & Whitney drill and tape mate. And it had a Fanuc 0M on it. And we picked it up from this company, and they were buying a new Herco, and they had this old machine in the way. And I was talking with the owner, and I was like, where are you going with that old machine? He's like, you want to buy it? I was like, well, I don't have enough money to buy it. I was like, I don't really know where I'd put it. And he said, well, if you get it out of here, you can have it. I was like, seriously? He's like, oh yeah. He's like, I just need it out of the way. He's like, I can't do anything with it, and it's not worth anything to me. So if you get it out of here, you can have it. So I was like, yeah, sure. So I call Matthew. I'm like, dude, I figured it out. I found a machine. We're going to start making parts. So we grabbed a gooseneck trailer and got a forklift lined out, picked it up, and took it down to Kentucky. I bought a phase converter and some tooling off eBay, and a vise here or there off eBay. And we started making parts in his garage. And, I had to learn how to wire. I didn't know anything about electricity. I told Matthew I did, because I didn't want him to like panic about, hey, this guy's going to put this machine in my garage. He has no idea what he's doing, But I was like, oh yeah, we'll figure it out. Don't worry, no worries. So I ordered a phase converter off the internet, did some research, and then figured out how to wire to it. So we get 3 phase out of the phase converter, and we put power, check the voltage, and we started getting it up and going. So after a couple of weeks, we had this robo drill in the garage, and it was such a mess to get this thing in there, dude. It was like borrowing this, we borrowed a trailer to go pick it up, had to borrow a forklift to get it on the trailer, drove this trailer through his backyard to get this machine in there, couldn't get a forklift to unload the trailer, had to go buy one of those big, borrow one of those big, it pivots in the middle, and it's used to like move gravel around. So we had one of those things that one of his connections down here in Kentucky had access to one. So we went to go borrow it, and we're using it to like snake this machine under an 8-foot door. And then we put it on a cart, and we had to push it back. Like, we had to put this machine that was like 6,000 or 7,000 pounds on a cart with casters, and actually like push it into place. It was a total nightmare. And it was such a mess. I can share the pictures with you. It's pretty cool. But had this little operation set up in his garage, and I would make programs and send them down to him. And I remember when we first got it up and going, we had power to it, and I was like, cool, it's going to work. He's like, yeah. I was like, all right, let's throw some tools in here. Let's get a vise in here. Let's put some metal in and cut it. He goes, cool, man. What are tools? What's a vise? And how do we cut? And I was just like, are you serious right now? He's like, dude, I have no clue what I'm doing. I was like, oh boy, this is where we start. So I basically trained him over the phone how to run a Fanuc 0M that I had never ran. And we're reading old manuals, figuring stuff out. And he was just welding in his garage, letting the machine run. And we were making parts on that machine and trying to get stuff going. And then we had some bad weather and his garage flooded. And we had that machine up about 6 inches deep in water, where it's like, this is not good. And we ended up renting this building we're in now at the time. And we ended up buying this building, which is, you know, it's nice, about 7,000 square feet. And we have a decent amount of room in here now. But at the time, we had a CNC machine that was in about 6 inches of water. And this is why I'm a huge fan of Fanuc, is literally we had a leaky roof and we had this machine in water. And the only thing that ever went out of it was a servo drive pack. I literally bought one that was close to it on eBay, pulled the boards apart, put the drive pack back together, patched it all back together, and the Z-axis servo amp started to work again in it. And to my knowledge, it still works today. We had a leaky roof at one time, and water got into the control, and he hit the coolant and the spindle turned on because the board was shorting out in it because all the moisture on the back of the board. We pulled it out, and this was not a heated garage. We had a kerosene heater. He puts this board in front of this kerosene heater to dry it out, and then puts it back in, back up and going, you know? So Fanuc, man, it's like, you can't kill them. They're just so reliable. So that's why we really, when it came time to buy the first machine, with it being a Fanuc control, I just kind of knew yeah, this is a good choice. It's always going to turn on. We're not going to be down. So that was huge.
When was the last time you thought about work holding? How long did it take you to change over the clamping devices on your CNC machines? Days? Maybe hours? Don't let work holding be an afterthought. With the Heimbuch system, changeovers can be done in seconds without readjustment of the runout. No longer do you have to turn down jobs because you don't have the right work holding. When flexibility is critical, add a mandrel, 2 or 3 jaw adaptation onto your collet chuck. Use it on your turning and milling machines. With such a low maintenance system, you will see less machine downtime and your profits will soar. To learn more about the Heimbuch system, visit www.heimbuchamerica.com or call 414-358-9550.
Yeah, it was quite the cobbled together mess in the beginning, and that's kind of how every business is, I feel like, or maybe, I don't know. I mean, I've only started this one, but we bought a 87 Herco BMC 30, and I was working at Herco at the time, and we had a board fail, and we couldn't get the board repaired because nobody repaired the boards on them anymore. Herco couldn't even get the parts anymore because it's like a 30-plus-year-old machine. They just didn't make the board. You just couldn't get it. So with the help of Bird Tool across the road, Chad over there, he helped us basically rewire a whole machine, new servo motors, new drives, new everything, re-interface the servo spindle. We salvaged that. And then Chad taught me how to program a Click PLC from Automation Direct. And we took the old IO board out that had all the tool changer stuff on it and rewrote all the ladders for everything so that we could actually use a tool changer and have this machine back up and going. So we did that. And about that time when we were working on machines every weekend, I was kind of thinking to myself, we're not really making any money. We're learning a lot of cool stuff here, but it's just not profitable. We're always working on stuff, and it was super frustrating. So we ended up buying our first Takumi machine, and Herco owns Takumi. And I'm not going to lie, half of my thought process was I need a machine and I work for Herco. And I know because I'm on the inside there. And at that time, they were just giving these smoking good deals on these Takumis. And it's not that I didn't want a Herco. I'd love to have a Herco, but we were on a budget, we disposable income didn't really exist. So I kind of just went to the regional sales manager at Herco. And I said, hey, I think I kind of need to buy a machine. And I was wondering if you'd sell me one. And of course, he's a sales guy. He's like, oh yeah, it's like a shark with blood in the water. They're going to do anything they can to get a sale. So, and that's what a good sales guy should do. Don't get me wrong here. But we we ended up buying our first Takumi machine from them. And then 3 months later, the first machine worked out so well, we bought the second one from them. And it was kind of one of those things at that point in time. I think everybody at Herco knew my time there was kind of limited. Like, it's going to come to an end, because I basically bought 2 CNC machines from them. And granted, it wasn't just me, it was Matthew and everything we were doing together. But you could kind of see that there was more going on after hours for me than during hours at that point. Not that I ever shorted my time there. I always worked all my hours and did all my travel and all that kind of stuff still. But it was always a constant grind. And I did about 2 years of work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 at Herco. And then if I had to travel that week, I'd be traveling to, my biggest trip there was to Singapore. And that was an awesome experience. I've been to Brazil for Herco. I had to go to Sao Paulo, Brazil. That was super cool. So, I would travel during the week and then work trade shows and all that kind of stuff. And then come Friday, when I get home or I get off work, there was have dinner with my wife, and then Friday night drive to Kentucky. And it was 3-hour drives. And I'd work with Matthew, teach him stuff about machining. And then anything I needed weld or fab, he's an awesome weld fab guy. So any little things we needed weld or fab or that side of the shop, he always handled. I never had to worry about that. But it was basically get the machines going, get the next job set up over the weekend, run some parts, and get it cranking out parts the next Monday, so that while I'm at work, he can be loading the machine, and then come Friday, roll all over again, do a changeover, load the next part in, and keep it going. And it was doing that for a couple of years. And I tell you what, I have no insecurities with my marriage at this point, because if she stayed with me through all that, I don't think I could get rid of her. It's just like she is awesome about the whole thing. So, and I'm not sure I would have been, to be honest, if my significant other was going every weekend. I think, I'm not sure how that would be if you kind of thinking about it, flipping everything around. That had to be incredibly hard on her. And I think it's all working out. Business is good, and I'm not traveling anymore. I get to see my son more now, which is awesome. I love seeing him, as any father is going to say. But it truly is. If you're a dad, you kind of that is like the highlight of your day, to see your kids. It's just awesome. But things are working out pretty well, and it was good. But definitely, anybody that gets into business, or anybody that's ran a business, I've got a lot of respect for them. This is not an easy road at all. It was a lot of work to get it going, and it can be a lot of work at times to keep things going. It's the way it is. And part of that is, one thing I really enjoy is calling my friends that own businesses I've met through the years. I've met through Herco, that I became friends with, that helped give me some guidance on how to do a lot of these things, and just call them and talk about, how's business going for you? What are you doing? What things are working for you? What struggles are you facing? And it's really cool to have those conversations with other business owners.
That's amazing, Justin. Really amazing. Matsura Machinery USA Incorporated, located in St. Paul, Minnesota, is a U.S. subsidiary of Matsura Machinery Corporation in Japan. Since 1935, Matsura has been the forerunner in designing innovative technology and manufacturing solutions to a variety of industries around the globe. Matsura Machinery USA Incorporated delivers unmatched excellence in 5-axis, vertical, horizontal, linear motor, multitasking CNC machine tools, and machines with a powder bed metal AM platform with machining capability. Matsura Machinery USA Incorporated provides the service, applications, and technical field support that have always been the Matsura standard for business. For more information on Matsura products, please contact marketing@matsurausa.com or visit matsura.com. Just to close this thing out, I think you've really nailed on a lot of aspects of why I'd personally want to work with you based on determination and perseverance and excitement and growth and a great, programming and machining background. So to close this thing out real quick, where can we find out more about you and Cox Stump Parts? Would it be Instagram, Facebook, website? Where, for the audience that's listening right now, where can we find more?
Oh, definitely. You can go to coxstumpparts.com, spelled just how you imagine it. Like I said, we never had a plan for any of this stuff. It just kind of happened in my buddy's garage. So just type it in like that on the internet, coxstumpparts.com. We have our shop page. We have an Instagram with a pretty decent follower base. I think about 8,500 followers at this time. So you can find us on Instagram. We also kind of rebrand the job shop side a little bit to CSP Machine. So anytime we invoice a large company, it's always under CSP Machine. We have a DBA for that and everything. So, but yeah, we do a little bit of everything from laser scanning, reverse engineering. We have 2 Haas UMC 750s, 2 Takumi VC series machines, an ST15 with a bar feeder. We have a couple powder coat ovens, a couple MIG welders, a TIG welder. We just ordered a plasma table. We've got a Bentech Dragon. So a lot of, pipe, tube fabrication type stuff. We get into a little bit of everything, but you can see all of that on our website and our Instagram. And you can find us at coxstumpparts.com or look at our Instagram for a CSP Machine or the Cox Stump Parts Instagram. So you can find us all there. And we don't just make motorcycle parts. We do powder coating for anybody in the area that just needs something powder coated. We do wheels for people all the time. We do anything from big volume purchase orders on machining castings to laser scanning a part for someone that's restoring a car, whatever. We get into just about everything. So whether it be powder coating to machining to welding, we kind of do it all. So feel free to look us up anywhere and on the web, on Instagram or website. And, if there's anything that they ever need to, if any of the listeners want to reach out, if there's anything that they ever need help with or whatever, Justin at cspmachineshop.com is my email. They can send me an email direct.
You're amazing, Justin. Well, folks, for those of you who have really absorb this information, it's truly valuable, Justin. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you sharing your journey. For all of those who are listening, this is Justin Small and Cox Stump Parts. This is the Billboard magazine model, the Vincennes University learner, the Herco programmer, machinist, traveler, all around amazing human being, great husband, great father, resilient son of a gun. Justin, thank you so much for being a part of the show. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me. And, anything I can ever do for you, just reach out. Always happy to help.
Thank you, brother.